one day, and I said this before on the show, but I want you to know about it. I get an email from somewhere, and it says usnavy.org. And I'm like, what is that? And like, I'm already paranoid because I do a conspiracy podcast. So I'm like, I'm not going to look into this. But the email says, follow the white rabbit. So later on, I see this thing with North Korea and the hair and all that stuff. And we'll get into that later. But I go, wow, white rabbit. I look into it, and it is a spreadsheet that is basically every one of like Q's drops that he was about to drop. That I got early, when you say October, right after that. And it had been dropped to me. And it had all the info on it with all like North Korea, Houthis, boom, boom, boom. And I was like, oh man, this got sent to me before. If I had put this out, it would have been amazing. But like I had gotten it early from a very high, at least that's what they had made it seem like, a very high up at the U.S. Navy system. So,
wow, that's interesting.
It's like it blew my mind, dude, because we were still very new at that point. Mm-hmm. But like the beginning, this thing that later on I started seeing all these drops really blew my mind. What is who is the white rabbit? Do we know what the rabbit?
And gosh, 3 months ago I had a dream where Hillary Clinton was on social media daring the cops to arrest her. She's gonna get arrested. So is Obama. They're both going to jail.
We'll get into Obama.
I would bet my next paycheck on it.
What kind of suggestions does Q make about Hillary?
Most governments, I don't need any proof. It just has to sound right. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I don't need any fucking proof.
Well, if there's a YouTube video, it's 100%.
Yeah.
Right?
No. If there's a YouTube video on a conspiracy theory, doesn't mean it's true. It means that there's potential that it's true. But if there's no YouTube link for this conspiracy theory that you talk about, then no way it's true. I mean, you can't videotape this shit. You got to show us cartoons.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. And people eat it up. They just eat it right up. Gobble, 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 gobble. All the lies about put voices in your head. They have the technology.
It's called Voice of God.
Yeah, and they've used it, right?
They've used it in the Middle East, so that they would put like, "Hey, I'm Allah, go kill everybody," blah blah blah, to these terrorists, or make them think crazy shit.
The great news is that it's out. That's out, and the great news is that you know that, I know that, and you know that. So if you hear any voices in your head, you know you're not crazy.
Right.
You know that there's someone doing this shit. When if you didn't know that was possible, you'd be freaking the fuck out. So tell everybody you know. You know, do we have any links to? I've seen videos of it, like, you know, on Instagram, little clips on the conspiracy Instagram pages. But so I know it's real. They talk about it like it's not even hidden. You know, it's good news though. Now we know that they can't do that to us.
Either way, you're still gonna sound crazy to someone who doesn't have a thing in their head. If I come up to him like,
well, yeah, I mean, people don't want to believe that these military people would use stuff to attack their own country, you know?
But at least, you know, you're not crazy. That's the most important.
No, yeah, you're like, hey,
you know what? If you had voices, if they were doing that and they had voices in your head, dude, you'd make your own goddamn documentary. You take all the information you could find, make a documentary to show it to all your friends and family. Like, they're doing this to me. They're targeting me.
What type of voice would you want? Talk to me.
That'd be funny. You could pick like your GPS. You could pick what voice you want.
I'd want Renato Laranja in my voice, in my head. Go to kill him.
When Joe fucking thumbface Rogan, when one of his someone on his podcast was like, why does the Improv even have a piano on stage? Like, I can't name a single piano player that does comedy. And fuckface Rogan, 5'6" fuckface, even though I've done his podcast 3 times and he's told me he literally loves me, doesn't say, oh, my buddy Owen Benjamin is a classically trained pianist, and he's painted on the wall of the Improv. My mural, I'm painted on the wall. My picture is hanging up next to Chris fucking Rock. I used to play that piano 3 nights a week. I'd stay there till 5 a.m. with Craig Robinson, singing songs and drinking, playing piano. Joe Rogan fucking Stalined my name. He erased me from a picture. And that's not aggressive. It goes against one of my principles that I don't call out people who don't say shit publicly. But that's another wizard tactic that I'm not quite sure how to deal with. But I do know that the only, like, just just being hilarious and a good guy beats all that shit. Because he can keep, erasing people's memories all he wants and keep pretending that he fucking understands the moon situation. But all he does is paint himself into a little faggot corner with his faggot friends, apologizing about being white as they fly around their stupid helicopters. Bill Burr can go fuck himself. He's funny as fuck, and I like him as a person. He's a conspiracy guy in a lot of ways. George! He apologized on behalf of white people last Rogan. At this point, that's almost unforgivable for me. If you apologize for mine and my family's race, and I'm even mixed race kike spick according to actual Nazis, no, fuck Bill Burr. You gotta understand. Stop it. You're staying. You're not allowed over there anymore. There's no virtue and loyalty to people who sell out your family's fucking race. No, Bill, you don't get to say, I'm sorry for me. I'm not guilty of shit for having white skin, you racist, redheaded faggot. It's like, dude, I have white kids. On behalf of, apologizing for white people? No. There's good people and bad people. Never, ever, ever do that again. And no, just because he's had some funny specials and sometimes he used to get it with some things and he's still probably funnier than 90% of the comedians. Don't ever apologize on my racial behalf, you redheaded queer. You helicopter flying, sodomy craving ginger faggot. And by the way, the Bill Burr that I liked did that to the city of Boston, I think. Was it Boston? No, it wasn't Boston. It was, I always have problems there too. It was Philadelphia. He ripped Philadelphia apart for 15 minutes based on their open and obvious unjustified hostility and hypocrisy. It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. Him apologizing on behalf of white people makes me think he's an absolute sellout cunt. And there's no virtue and loyalty to people like that. Don't think it's cool to be like, I love Bill. No, you fucking don't. Do you love people? Do you love people that are white? Are you cool that Bill Burr just fucking apologized for them? For what? For founding the fucking country? Bill Burr has a black wife. Does he like the fact that white people were the first people in the history of the world to make slavery illegal? But never, ever, 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 ever apologize for white people again, you redheaded queen. Because people like that take it in their asshole. I don't know how else to put it. When you see a guy like Bill Burr cuck that hard and be like, yeah, men really are bad and white people, we're bad. It's like, that guy takes dick in his ass. Because that amount of self-hatred has to come from some type of asshole touching. No, Bill Burr just has a kid. I have 2 kids. Oh, Bill Burr's kids are mixed race? My kids are mixed race. Keep hitting excuses. Having a kid either makes you a nonsense wizard monster because you're just a fucking, or it makes you a truth teller. And Bill Burr is a great comedian and should understand that albums have to age right. And if you start drinking that jizz and start being like, white people are bad, it's like, in 20 years, people will spit on your album and say, that racist cuck. We almost lost our entire country. And I don't want a whites-only country. Nobody does. I want a country that exists. Bill Burr is a follower in Joe Rogan's footsteps. How can you follow Joe Rogan? He's 5'6". What leader? If I was standing in front of Joe Rogan, I would think he disappeared. I would be like, where's my friend Joe Rogan? And someone would be like, way down there. I'd be like, where? No, men are right here. Where's Joe Rogan? And they're like, no, do that. And then way down, I'd see a shiny bald head. And I'd be like, hey, buddy. And I know Joe Rogan could beat the fuck out of me. I know he could buy and sell everything I own. I know that he sells out stadiums and I don't. He speaks lies and he's short. Why the fuck do people all act like money does shit? Joe Rogan is not a leader. And I used to follow him. It's just we're so deficient of leaders. He's 5'6". If he was a king on a horse, would he if they hadn't invented booster seats or phone books, how would the soldiers have seen him? When he was like, freedom, and they'd be like, who just said that? Who just said that? Joe is a bully? Of course he's a bully. Of course he's a bully, man. And he's a bully who pretends to be an advocate for the weak. That's why I got so pissed off. It's because I loved him for what he did for me. I loved him for what he said to Carlos Mencia. And then I realized that it's all spells. When people are actually down, when Alex Jones gets banned from everything and called a hate monger, a guy that Joe's been friends with since the late 90s. Yeah, I think Alex is crazy because he thinks we went to the moon. But Joe fucking went. Boop. Never had him on. He's like, yo, my schedule. I talked to him on the phone about that, and I called him out on that. And we had a nice conversation. But I believed him at the time. He was like, dude, my schedule is crazy right now, and I'm trying to... Joe, your show is paid for by the dildos and the pocket pussies you sell and all the bullshit Dr. Oz fucking male vitality shit. Who's making your schedule? Like, you have all the freedom in the world. That's why people follow you. You can build an archery range and drive any car you want and smoke weed and fuck and pump iron. You're the freedom guy. You're Gary Johnson weed guy. But you're a slave to your schedule? Really? Really, Joe? Or is that a spell? Is that cowardly? Man, if only I could hang out with Joe Rogan. It's not that fun. You do way too many drugs. Duncan Trussell is the weirdest dude on the planet. Bert Kreischer is always drinking 30 beers and trying to suck your dick. You know, what's there? Like, what is that? What is that? Is that better than your friends in your fire and your brother?
Hey, everybody.
Of course
Thanks
it's
for
not.
tuning
It's
into
actually
Tinfoil Hat.
insane.
I just wanted to put this little kind of disclaimer out before you listen to this episode. This episode was recorded last week. I went out of town for family for about 9 days. So Ryan and I, because the show's being really cooking with gas, thanks to you guys, your passion for what we're doing, the show has been growing. We kind of wanted to make sure that we didn't miss a beat. So we recorded over 3 days, 4 episodes. And one of the episodes we did was this episode, which was Q Anonymous. We had a guy, his name is Praymatic, and he has a wonderful YouTube channel, and it's dedicated, a lot of it, to Q Anonymous. So we had him on. I really enjoyed this episode. Well, after we recorded, 2 days later, a firestorm breaks out, and there's this whole thing: is Q Anonymous a LARP? Has he been compromised? And all this stuff has come out about whether Q is real, whether Trump is real, and all that stuff. So part of me was a little hesitant to put this episode out, but I would feel that is very disingenuous and would be rude to Dave, the praying medic, who was kind enough to spend time and come on our show and, basically give his insight into his passion, which is Q Anonymous. Based on his tweets and his YouTube, he is still a very passionate Q supporter, and I respect that. I want to tell you that myself personally, I broke my own rules of the Ronin when it comes to Q. I broke the rule, which is I do not defend anybody I do not personally know, and I defend no actions that I was not personally a part of. I did that with Q. And, people call it hope porn. I wanted to believe it. Now, I personally believe that the early Q stuff was real, and that this stuff that we are going to discuss later on post that Q put out didn't seem to have the same passion, the same feel to it. The verbiage was different, everything like that. There are things that David talks about, having dreams about Q. He's a little bit more, he's more passionate about Trump. I have to be honest with you, ever since this Q stuff, this tweet that he put out about China and working with the Chinese government to save all these Chinese jobs, again, breaking the rules of the Ronin, I started to kind of defend and hope that there would be change coming in our government, and I don't feel that way right now. But I respect Dave, and I want to put this out because he's kind enough to come on the show and do it, and I support him and his passion and his belief, and, you know, so obviously this is going to be an interesting episode. Some of the information might have changed, your views on Q might have changed, but I just want to put this out, and I want to put the disclaimer out.